Hello and welcome to the OK Takes podcast. I am Matt, and as always, I'm joined by my fellow capo, Edward. As of 4:15 p.m. West Coast time, it is officially OK Takes Laker season. So we're going to be recording an episode once a week on either Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're starting off with what feels like the 90th blown lead of the season, and it's only 2 weeks in.
Yeah, every time I watch the Lakers, it's like deja vu all over again because we get out to what we think is a comfortable lead, and then like 5 minutes later, it's gone.
Yeah, and there's good deja vu, or it just kind of innocuous, like walking into an elevator. And then there's the bad one where running over the same instance of somebody just laying a wet, juicy fart in the elevator. And that's what it kind of feels like. It's these blown leads. It's like being in an elevator with somebody who just ripped ass.
Yeah, it's been extremely frustrating to say the least.
Mm-hmm. So we're starting off the season, or the OK Take season, with the win against the Charlotte Hornets. And to be honest, it's a win, but I'm going to call it a loss.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest of showings. Luckily, they done. Thank you, Carmelo Anthony. And also, I guess, thank you, Anthony Davis. But you're kind of right. It was one of those wins where it was like, sure, the Hornets aren't great or they aren't bad, but they aren't great. Like, we should have put them away when we had the chance.
Mm-hmm. I think what made this even more insulting is that the Hornets blew like a 20-point lead or gave up like 20 points and blew a lead to the Clippers the night before.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so, and it's like, look, the Clippers aren't at full strength either, but it's like the Lakers have Anthony Davis and Westbrook still playing. So they should be able to handle their business against LaMelo Ball.
Look, we're not playing good teams. I think that's like the biggest point before we actually start diving into the specifics of the game is that the Lakers are blowing games against bad teams. It's 2 to the Thunder and now against the Hornets. Okay, well, it's a different story if it was the Nuggets or if it was the Bulls or if it was the Warriors. Like when we lost to the Warriors, at least we had to blow a lead that time in the fourth quarter. So I guess that was a good thing.
Yeah. And it's like, you're right, because, we're playing bad teams. This was like a really good stretch, you could say. Like, we got dealt a good hand to start the season. 2 against the Rockets, back to back, at like 2 against the Thunder in like a 4-game stretch. The Spurs, who are bad, So to only make it out of this stretch at 6-5, it does feel like a lot.
Yeah, because you kind of look back and like, wait, I feel like we should have only lost 1 or 2 of these games. And obviously losing to the Warriors, not a big deal. The Warriors are on fire. Curry dropped 50 last night. So that's not a big deal. You can't really kick yourself for that one. But yeah, dropping 2 to the Thunder and then getting ass whooped by the Blazers. Is my only note from the Blazers game is Dame had 10 points in like the first 4 minutes. And the game before, he had 4 points all night.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, if we had just kept our leads against the Thunder, we would be in a stretch right now where we had won 8 of 9, and our record would be 8-3. Because like, we were never in that Warriors game, we were never in that Blazers game, so I can't really say like, oh well, we couldn't really have won those. But you got to keep 20-point leads against a Thunder team where like the average age is like 19. You have to be able to keep those leads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if the average age of guys is that of a JUCO team, it's probably a sign that whatever is happening is not working.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we're going to get into the specifics of this game now. And it was a game that was pretty much neck and neck the entire way until the third quarter. And actually, when the Hornets blew a lead of their own, because they were up 78-70. I mean, this is where the game turned. It was the end of the third quarter. So the Hornets were up 78-70 with 5 minutes left.
Yeah. And it looked like, that's kind of where I was like, deja vu, here we go. They're going to win this game, was at that point when it was 78-70.
Because I mean, it was feeling like the Hornets, or I would say it was the deja vu to I mean, I would say the Blazers or the Warriors, because those games weren't really neck and neck. They didn't have the same feel as this one. But the weird part is, like, what kind of gave us this deja vu feeling of blowing leads is you have to build the lead in the first place. So now, and then from that 5-minute mark, we then go on a 24-9 run. And then we end the fourth quarter up 94-87. And And the way we end the third quarter is the Malik Monk prayer buzzer beater. You never make those. You get, if you're lucky, you get 3 or 4 of those a season.
Yeah, and that was an awesome shot. First of all, just like it was like, I think because it was like Melo tried to throw it off of a Hornets player and he missed, and it ended up just falling straight to Malik Monk at the half court line. He just heaved it. So at that point, I was like, okay, we've won. Like, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, that's like in the Hunger Games when you get a care package. That's like giving like any one of the tributes an RPG.
Yeah, hitting a shot like that to end the third quarter when you were down and you mounted a comeback to, build yourself a lead there, and you hit that shot to cap off the quarter. It's like, okay, the odds are in our favor here.
Yeah, it's like you get an RPG and a McDonald's.
Exactly.
Like, not even a McDonald's meal. No, you actually get to own a McDonald's that only you get to eat at inside the arena.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that like I keep on having to stop myself from saying loss because they won, but in my head it's a loss. So I mean, like I said, you only get a couple of those and you nearly blew that. But but then what the frustrating part is that during that end of the third quarter to beginning of the fourth quarter, that was some of the best basketball we've played this year. And who was the king during that time? And who was like just ball? I mean, I think I heard Stu Lance say that he was unconscious at least 5 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whenever you're a game and Stu Lance and you do something and Stu Lance can only help but laugh, that's how you know you did something right. Because after Carmelo hit, like, it was fast break, it was a pull-up 3, and then the Hornets called a timeout. Like, I watched the clip on Twitter and it was just Stu Lance going like just chuckling, and I was like, because I remember he did that during Kobe's 60-point game, like, times. If he is just at a loss for words and can only laugh, you're having a special game. And that's how Carmelo was last night. He was special.
Yeah. Quick little side note, Billy Mack and Stu Lance are the absolute best. I love them so much.
They are so great, aren't they? Like, how did we get so lucky to have Joe Davis for baseball and Billy Mack and Stu Lance for basketball?
Yeah, I mean, talk about just having honey voices.
They're awesome. They're like I love the Hornets announcers because of their excitement, and like I just know the game, and like they love, like, they excited, but there's just something about the smooth, silky voices of Billy Mack and Stu Lance.
Yeah, feels good to get those again. Yeah, so going back to the game, because we have the crazy buildup, and then because we have Melo hitting 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, and just crazy spot up shooting. So I guess this is a good time to give Melo his flowers at a time when, because there was a time when nobody was giving Melo anything. They were literally saying that we'd rather not give you the bare minimum to play.
Yeah. And I mean, look, the Lakers picked him up and he's shooting 52% from 3 in the first 11 games. They took a fly guy who's 30. How old is he? 35 now, maybe?
For the sake of the narrative, let's just call him 40.
Okay, he's 40. They took a flyer on a guy who's 40, and right now he's giving them 18 points per game. Are you kidding me? On efficient, like, without him, we might be 1-10. Like, seriously, he's been like one of the few bright spots on this team so far.
Oh, easy. And I love kind of his quote about like this whole journey, because last night was supposed to be the Melo story. That was supposed to be the zeitgeist of the game, is Melo is here. It's King Melo time. Everybody started putting your hair in braids, all that good shit. So this is what and it kind of took some attention away from him with the blown lead, but kind of going back to Melo, he said, saying it's something that I took, this is in calling back to like what it was like for him to not be on a team in a year and a half, however long it was, saying it's something that I took on the chin, dealt with it. I lived with it, played the scenarios all through my head for months, but I never doubted myself in anything that I did, always stayed solid on who I am, what I can do. And we hear athletes say this all the time. all the time because it's the mentality you have to have. But how many of them actually follow through with it?
Yeah, you got to have that attitude if you're an athlete. Melo is completely following it up and completely backing his words. And, you're like you said, we don't see that too often.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, over and over and over that we hear athletes, and I mean, it's kind of drawing a blank on any in particular because literally everybody else says it. But when guys are on the brink of could they play, kind of like an AP, but like Carmelo is actually making a run for sixth man of the year.
Oh, yeah. I would say he's probably the front runner right now.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to buy in too much, but I mean, it's very safe to say that he's been the ribbon in the sky that we've just been praying for.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. He's been the shooter that we have been desperate for. Like one thing that was a problem with the Lakers last year was 3-point shooting. And they brought in guys like Wayne Ellington and Malik Monk and Carmelo, who are plus 3-point shooters. They can really hit from the outside, and those are looking to be like really crucial pickups. And if this team's going to go anywhere, they're honestly going to be at the front of it.
Mm-hmm. And the crowd absolutely loves Melo, and it's just a great relationship where he's giving us love, we're giving him back love, and we're exactly where you want to be. And there was actually like big shots. Those big shots. The one part that confused me a lot that I didn't understand is he got subbed out of the game for some time after the crazy run to begin the fourth quarter. So I think he got subbed back into the game with about 5 minutes left. Didn't shoot the ball once, I think. That made no sense. And it kind of ties back into why the lead was blown is because we weren't doing what got us the lead in the first place. I think Melo hit like 3 or 4 threes during that stretch.
Yeah, he was just unconscious. And I also think for him not to get the final shot was of the fourth quarter was a little weird, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, he was the catalyst to building that lead.
Yeah. And I think this is the story I don't think that's a story to say for another day. Like, no, that's a story of today because we saw it was working and it just made no sense, the shot selection. But what pissed me off the most about what happened, considering like the blown lead and how we pretty much thought the game was lost, is Frank Vogel after the game on Carmelo's 3-point shooting, saying that we're getting him as many threes as we can get him. He's playing terrific for us on both sides of the ball. So like you're getting him as many threes as you say, like as you can, but are you really doing that? Because if there was anybody to shoot a 3 in the last seconds, like with the Anthony Davis shot, then it should be Melo. That's the guy who should be shooting from 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And ended up shooting 10 threes last night, and he was 7 for 10. So he should have shot 11 threes. He should have gotten that last 3, and he could have been 8 for 11. And I know we ended up winning in overtime, and hindsight is 2020, but still, I think it's a no-brainer that he has to be the guy that gets that last shot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fair. Like, yeah, hindsight 2020, but even when that happened and then we end up winning and nearly 24 hours later, I'm still like, no, that was a bad shot. That was something that should have never happened. And if AD has the ball in his hands in remaining seconds, then he should be driving to the rim because one, we know how dominant he is down low. I mean, that's why he's made hundreds of millions of dollars and won a ring. And second, you could get a foul, and AD is a above average free throw shooter. Like there is really just no benefit from settling with a shot like that. So my one takeaway from that is I think what happened is he hits the crazy buzzer beater against the Nuggets in the bubble. That was like literally from the same exact spot, a little bit different of a shot. So shot selection. It wasn't just a pull up. He was running. It was a catch and shoot. But yeah, so I think he was like, you know what? You're going to get that moment from me, and it's going to cost you 5 more attempts at buzzer beaters.
Yeah. I think they're kind of living off that one moment.
Especially for a shot like that, because I believe that's like the 3rd air ball we've had in the final seconds of a game.
Yeah. Because we had 2 against the Thunder. 2 against the Thunder. Yeah. It's bad.
So, I mean, and I know it's so hard to win games at the end of the I mean, the buzzer beaters are few and far between, yada, yada, yada. But you at least want to live with the shot that you do get. I think that's what everybody's frustrated about is, yes, it would have been great if he made it. But even if he did make it, you're still looking back like, man, that was kind of lucky because that's not a shot that it is in favor of AD's ability.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're going to let AD, like I'm fine with AD getting the final shot if they draw up a play that fits his game
Yeah.
and fits his skill set. Like you said, if he attacks the basket and tries to draw a foul, like draw up a play for him, that's all well and good, but just make it fit style.
Mhm.
Don't make it feel forced.
I'll be so bold to say, now you could say this because we won, but if he drove to the rim and ended up getting a charge, honestly, I think I would have been more okay with that than having to live with that air ball. Just doing, and it was absolutely nothing too. It's not like he was forced into it because somebody was playing like it was just a hot potato where there was 2 seconds remaining. No, like I think it was there for like 8 to 10 seconds and was just made like a statue.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the LeBron thing. I've always been in the camp of like, sure, LeBron hits those dribble step back jumpers and step back threes every now and then, but I'm willing to live with LeBron attacking the paint every single time he's on the ball because he's either going to draw a foul, layup, or and if he gets called for, I can live with that. But I can't live with him settling for these weird jumpers every time. Like even though he hits them because he's just a great player, it's like I would rather him play to his skill set. And so the same goes for Anthony Davis. I could have lived with a charge in that situation if I knew it was the right play.
But just movement. I think that's the part that makes me so much more frustrated than the shot itself is the lack of movement that was going on. I mean, that was kind of one thing we were texting about after is, and you were talking about is like, it just kind of feels like it's a team of individuals and just not an actual team.
Yeah. And that's how I felt because I was at the Thunder game here in Oklahoma when the Lakers came. And my immediate thought was they look like a collection of players rather than a team. And the way I used it as like a metaphor was the Lakers are like a collection of greatest hits rather than an actual cohesive album. They're like, if Apple Music created a playlist of Kendrick Lamar's best hits, that's what the Lakers, instead of being Good Kid Mad, being one cohesive album, one cohesive team. They're just like a collection of players.
Because I mean, when we were texting, you mentioned the Good Kid, Mad City. Then it's like, okay, well, Kent Bazemore is Kendrick when he hit the shenanigans at the end of the Art of Pure Pressure.
Exactly. Yeah, great song, by the way.
The storytelling in that was impeccable. But it's frustrating because I'm scared of what's going to happen with the last 5 seconds of the game because this is where seeds are made. Like this is where the difference between an 8th seed and a 7th seed, so on and so forth. And I don't know, it just would suck to look back and where we're off by like, if we miss something big by like 2 or 3 games, and it's because of moments like this and the AD not making it. And maybe for listeners will be like, well, who fucking cares? We won. But no, because if you see something now, then you might see it again.
Exactly. And like you said, these are the stretches of the year where we're supposed to win games to build our seed. Like we're supposed to win these games to build our seed, like our strength as a top 4 seed. Because right now it looks like we're going to get down the stretch and we're going to look back at these games against the Thunder. We're like, man, if we had just won those 2 games against the Thunder, we'd be hosting a playoff game like as a 4 seed instead of maybe going on the road to somewhere like Utah or Denver as a 5 seed. Like, and like, these are important things to watch for like this against the Hornets, because if we consider this stretch to be easy, with the games against the Thunder and the Rockets, how are we going to fare in stretches like we have coming up where we play the Heat and we play the Bulls and we play the it's just, I don't want to get too far. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I do think these are important things to think of right now.
Yeah, it's all valid because what we saw last year, the worries that we had at the beginning of the season, they came back to bite us in the ass, and they were valid. So, I mean, that's like everything you have to, but I mean, it's what happens with the first half of the year is every single show and every single podcast that you're going to listen to about a basketball team and just any team that you have is at least once they're going to mention, but with a grain of salt, that cliche, because it's what you have to do, because who knows what's going to be happening. So it kind of works both ways of the bad, which is blowing the leads, and the good, which is the Melo. So if you want to be biased and just kind of jump the gun on the really good things and ignore the bad things, then go ahead. But it's not the way it's really going to work. Like, I don't think Melo is going to be putting up the same numbers come February.
No. And I mean, look, and Melo's been awesome, but also like Anthony Davis has been really good and he's managed to stay healthy, knock on wood.
Well, not really. I mean, he was puking his guts out.
Well, you can't, yeah, I know, like a sickness is sure he's not healthy, but like, I mean, like, he's had some interesting moments with his ankle there and he's gotten some rest, but it's like he's playing really well and so is Carmelo. And look, we know about Russ, but it's like,
yeah,
this is one of those teams where it's like going into the season, we were like, health is going to be the only thing to hold them back. And looking at them now, it's like, really? Like, it looks like there's a lot that could hold them back.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of strategy, and like that's part of it is end of the game strategy. And I don't think rotations are horrible. Like, I don't know. The thing is with like rotation talk is that you have to kind of give it a month to see what works and what doesn't, because there's so many different combinations, and you have to see, and it sounds dumb, but you have to see something not work multiple times and you have to see something work multiple times. So it's that weird balance of, if you try, like, this is where you kind of try everything, throw everything on the wall and see what sticks. And right now, I will say the one thing that's not looking like it's going to stick is Russ.
Yeah. So I want to, and so I know I want to go off on a little riff here. I know plus minus isn't a perfect stat, but I do think it's a good tell of, and I know it's kind of like a night by night thing, but Russell Westbrook's plus minus this year is minus 46. And you were talking about rotation. Well, take into consideration last night, every starter for the Lakers was in the negative in plus minus. Every single player that came off the bench was positive. So I think that we need to start mixing things up, because I clearly think AD is going to need to play the 5 to work Melo into the starting lineup every now and then. And like seeing Wayne Ellington 24 minutes with a plus 21, and then seeing Avery Bradley 24 minutes with a minus 21, like, why not switch those guys in and out?
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird part, is that our bench was so much better than our starters. And now that's what I'm saying, is like going back to earlier, is like you have to keep on maybe sticking with a similar rotation over and over, just so you could see if it doesn't work, so you could be for sure, be like, okay, well, these two guys can play together. Now on kind of the flip side of what you're saying, it's like, yeah, maybe there is time for adjustments with swapping in guys like you just mentioned, Avery, or swapping out Avery Bradley for a Wayne Ellington.
Yeah, and it's like, I know 3-point shooting isn't perfect, but as I alluded to earlier, we needed threes last year and we didn't have them. Okay, we have them this year. To look at the box score and see our starting 5 make 2 threes, and then look at Melo off the bench have 7 by himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, starting 5 combined for 2 threes, and Melo made 7 by himself. Yeah. So it's like, when we're going to start to rotate guys in and out of the starting. Like, I would be fine if the Lakers did not have a concrete starting 5. If they moved guys in and out, if they let Wayne Ellington have a shot, if they gave Malik Monk chances, if they let Melo take a shot at the starting 5, like, that's how I think the Lakers find success this year, is oddly enough, rotating guys in and out of the starting 5. Yeah, obviously not LeBron and AD, those guys, and Westbrook. They're going to.
Yeah. So I mean, there's something to look forward to. The one thing that we have to touch on right now is the 5 free throws from LaMelo. Because I'll be honest, I forgot to bring it up.
Those are plays games. Those are instances that lose games.
Yeah, I forgot to mention it when we were talking about blown leads, but I have to bring it up now. It was so bad, because All right. So at that point, we're already kind of starting to blow the lead a little bit. It was 101, 110 with 3:39 left. And then those 5 free throws made it 106, 110. You're like, wait, there hasn't been any time that passed. And all of a sudden, we're a 4-point play away from blowing the lead.
In a 60-second span, the score went from being 110 to 101 to 112 to 108.
How's it even possible?
In a 60-second span. Like that,
Yeah.
that should not be physically possible.
It was so dumb because first Vogel got a tech for a delay game. Melo walked across the lane for a delay game. And then Russ yelled at the ref. This is like the first, if there was a basketball version of Bad News Bears, this would probably be in like this would be the first game where kids are picking daisies in right field and crisscross applesauce at second base.
Well, what we can say a lot about the Lakers, and another, like, one thing we can say, they're finding new ways to blow leads. Like, they're discovering new ways.
They're the Lions
to
of
blow
basketball.
Exactly. They're finding new ways to lose, to almost, or to lose games. Like, they're finding new ways. This was just discovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what kind of frustrated me the most from this is the Russ's comments on this. So Russ is the one that gave Melo, I believe, 2 more free throws because he yelled at the ref. So
Yeah.
it was a little snafu because the ref yelled at Russ, and Russ then had this to say about the incident. So then Russ yelled back to him, and then it was just weird. So this is what he had to say. He said he was probably a little upset. I don't know why, but he screamed at me, and I told him, don't scream at me. Like, I'm not your kid. I got kids of my own. Don't talk to me like I'm your child. Now, I'm not saying this, and I don't know if I'm going to be saying this because if Russ played better, but I will say, though, I mean, the Lakers tear into refs like nobody's business, and especially with LeBron. Like, LeBron was about to get there was multiple occasions where LeBron could have got teed up on the bench when he's I mean, he's 1 stride away from the free throw line.
Yeah, the Lakers are known for always having words with the refs, especially now with Dwight Howard and Rondo. These are all guys that are known for having a mouth towards the refs.
And that is a problem. And I think the ref probably was a little impatient. It was like, but the fact that you say like, oh, well, the respect goes both ways. No, I mean, I've seen them clown the refs multiple times. I've seen them laugh in their face when they get bad calls. So there is the human element of the game where it's like, what do you expect? And I know it's frustrating. I know it sucks. I mean, everybody in the NBA does it, especially now with all the rule changes. It feels like even though there's less fouls, more people are getting mad. But like, yeah, I think part of it's the LeBron effect of you keep on yelling at the refs, eventually they're just going to yell back at you, and there's going to be some form of ramification, and it just happened to come at the worst time possible.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm an NBA ref and I get assigned a Laker game, I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna be getting chewed out all night. Like I would honestly be pissed if I had to ref a Laker game.
Yeah, because imagine shooting down the LeBron favors.
Yeah, like imagine a star like Russell Westbrook or Anthony Davis or LeBron like tearing into you. Like that can't be a great feeling.
Yeah, so I guess refs' lives matter.
yes, absolutely. I stand with refs.
Black and white lives matter. Stripes. Okay, I should change it. Stripes lives matter.
Zebras matter. Lives matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I pretty much want to end the show because we're on the topic of Russ, and I just wanted to kind of end with this, that I think what happens with the Russ and what happens with the Russ stands is that there's a wool put over their eyes, because when Russ makes plays, he makes them. When you see Russ's success, it's flashy, it's amazing. Like, it's stuff that he's just the peak highlight king. And he was born for House of Highlights. So if that's all you see are Russ's insane alley-oops and crazy drives to the basket where he's jumping from the free throw line and yamming it on your favorite center's forehead, then yeah, you're going to be like, well, why does anybody hate this guy? And then you watch an entire game of Russ and you're like, oh, I can see.
Yeah, and I think one thing is Russ tries too hard. I do think.
Well, not according to him. There was, I'm sorry to interject, but like there was a
No,
quote
you're
the other night. There was a quote the other night from him in the presser where he said, "I'm just gonna have to try harder."
no, no. I think a lot of times he has that Kobe mentality where he's like, I'm the best player on the court. Everybody just get out of my way. I'm going to win this game. And he has to realize, no, you're not. You're not the best player on the court. You have a good team around you. Just do what's best for the team.
Yeah, I guess Russ is the little train that couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Russ is just, yeah, I love him to death, but sometimes
I mean, you're wearing a shirt.
I'm wearing his shirt, but sometimes I question his decision making.
Yeah, I think this is mine because I wanted to note down like going into the game. I was coming in from the mind frame of, well, what does Russ do after the big play? What does he do within a couple plays after, or maybe not directly after, but in the next 2 or 3 possessions? And I marked it down. So Russ had he had a couple big alley-oops to DeAndre Jordan, who is just Andre Drummond, but slower mentally and physically. But yeah, so he had one huge alley-oop to DeAndre Jordan. And then the next possession, he gets blocked and LaMelo hits a 3 to tie it and it tied the game up at 11. Once again, there was another good pass to DJ on a give and go, or excuse me, it wasn't on a give and go. It was on a fast break. And then it was great. I mean, I believe that DeAndre Jordan slammed it down crazy. It was loud. It was thunderous. And then the next possession, he turns the ball over.
Yeah, it's kind of just like kind of a back and forth with Russ. You see him do those lobs and you see him do that, and then you see the turnovers, and it's like, what the hell? 30 seconds ago, you just made it a lob, and now you.
Because the problem is that Russ is never quiet. When he is good, he is very loud, and when he is bad, he is thundering.
Well, I made a comparison to Russ when he was on those Thunder teams after Kevin Durant had left. And I was like, Russell Westbrook is like a really good dynamic quarterback with a bad offensive line. That was how I looked at Russell Westbrook on the Thunder. How I look at him now is he's an aging quarterback with a great offensive line, but he doesn't realize he has a good offensive line. So he feels like he has to do everything himself.
I don't know. He strikes me. He has a little bit of Carson Wentz in him, just a little bit of.
He does have Carson Wentz in him.
Like, there is no such thing as not finding a way out of a situation.
Exactly.
Because Russ plays basketball like he's in one of the Saw lockdown rooms.
Yeah. Russ has Carson Wentz in him. That's a good way to put it.
Because no matter what the situation is, he'll find his way through it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And whether it's the right way or the way through it, he finds his way through it.
And it's usually the wrong way. I'll be honest. It's like he's getting put in an escape room where there's knives everywhere, and I don't know, there's rodents and snakes and just really fucked up reptilian creatures that are just like invented in, I don't know, just some weird witchcraft. And then there's like, you have to go through all those or go through a neat little escape door, and he'll choose to go through all that instead of just turning a knob on a door and just walking out.
Yeah, he has to make it harder for himself.
It's pretty much the best way to put it, is that Russ makes life as hard as possible.
Yeah.
But what makes it so frustrating is that he's so good in some moments where you're the give and go alley-oop to DJ. You're like, oh my God, how could one be so electric, but then so clumsy the next possession? Is we're just it's going to be the dichotomy that we'll live with through the entire year.
And another thing is, like, we also have yet to see Russ have one of his big games. Like, sure, he's been putting up triple doubles, but there's games we've seen Russ have, even recently when he hasn't been himself, but we've seen him put up 30-point triple doubles. And right now, every time he gets a triple double, it's like 11, 12, and 11. So it's like they're triple doubles that he still turns the ball over 7 times and shot like 6 for 20.
Yeah, I mean, once or twice a game, you could find him hitting a spot on the backboard you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, so it's like I know, like, we're gonna get incredible Russ, but lately it's been like we've seen flashes of it, but we've also seen turn the ball over in crunch time Russ.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shit show. It's a shit show.
That's kind of the way to describe the Lakers so far.
Mhm.
They're going to be like 10-10 through 20 games. I'm telling you right now.
Feels like it. Feels like it. Even that's pretty optimistic. All right. Okay, so that'll be it for the first episode of the Lakers Talk for OK Takes. So we'll be doing this, like I said before, beginning of the episode, once a week on either Tuesday or Wednesday. It just kind of depends on when the Lakers are playing. All right, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you would like to follow myself on Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at MattWiner20. Like to follow Edward on his Instagram and Twitter, you can find him at Edward_Vento. And if you have no care in the world for anything we have to say, make sure to follow OK Takes on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at OK Takes Pod. That is OKAY Takes Pod. OKAY Takes Pod. Takes 2 seconds and will help us tremendously. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and have a wonderful day.